The presidential candidates in 1960, Massachusetts Senator John Kennedy and Vice President Richard Nixon, were only in their mid-40s. Both were ardent Cold Warriors.
But I am not satisfied as an American to be second to the Soviet Union.
What we want to do is not to turn their way, but to do it our way. And that's exactly what we're talking about in this campaign.
The country had a consensus at that time. There were no real divisions among the majority of Americans over the Cold War and communism. And Nixon and Kennedy emphasized their anti-communist credentials, which were sterling on both sides.
Both men were Navy veterans. The candidates had been freshman congressmen together after the war. But somehow Kennedy seemed the younger and identified himself as the candidate of a new generation.
His enthusiasm, his energy and determination, it was infectious. And we all felt, and the country felt, that, yes, you know, we're on the march again, and then it was a good march. You know, we went to several states to campaign.
I was in my early 20s. I walked a precinct in Redondo Beach. I don't think I've ever done that before or since. He affected everybody.
The favorite candidate of much of the entertainment community reached the high point of his campaign in a series of debates on television.
These were the first presidential debates ever. There'd never been a presidential debate before.
Smith, Senator Kennedy.
And the fact that it was happening live and on television gave it a kind of theater that was remarkable.
The question now is, can freedom be maintained?
The candidates were close on the issues, particularly on a tough stand against the Soviet Union.
I, of course, disagree with Senator Kennedy.
Studies after the debate show that those who heard it on the radio thought Mr. Nixon had won. Those who saw it on television gave the edge to Kennedy.
The image that came over definitely favored Kennedy.
Surplus, which breaks the price.
To see his earnestness, to feel his charm, to feel his idealism, I'm convinced that he would not have won without the debates.
After the closest presidential election of the century, the country's oldest elected president at the time was succeeded by its youngest.
I remember watching the inaugural with pleasure and even a kind of pride. I was struck by the fact that he didn't wear an overcoat, though it was a very cold January day.
Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
It was very exhilarating, in a sense, to have a man as young and articulate and electric as John Kennedy was. What he said was quite hawkish when you look back on it.
That we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
After the soaring words of the inaugural speech, the inaugural parties gave final proof to the notion that a younger and more glamorous administration had arrived.
I remember Lenny Bruce saying, "Isn't it great to have a president who you can imagine sleeping with his wife?" And I thought at the time, God, I think that too. You could identify with the man in that sense. He had, it was the first president that seemed like a guy, not like something on a dollar bill.
The idea of a White House run and staffed by younger people with a 32-year-old chief speechwriter and a press secretary in his 30s and all these people around Kennedy, there was that feeling that, well, if they're running the political system, surely we can be somehow involved in it.
We wanted to serve. We wanted to do something because young people, me included, in those days, did wonder how we were ever going to top the generation before us. Our fathers had fought World War II. They had won. They had beaten a depression in some way. What are we going to do?